Okay, so we just talked about the bishops as these dogmatic mathematicians that rule over Tyler's internal landscape and are reflected in the outside world. I also said that we're going to pick right up from there in the next video, and I lied. I want to talk about color, struggle, and structure.
I journal. Do you write a journal at all?
No, I don't.
And I'm not good at it because I don't know how many journals I've failed at keeping. But for me, journaling, this life and the things around it are always going to try to like hammer into you that you're worthless and you haven't accomplished anything today and you are a failure, and like all of it, whether it's just me or if it's just if the world around me. And the more roadblocks you can put in front of that thing that's constantly trying to hammer into your head that you're worth nothing, the more roadblocks you put up, the better.
So these are visuals for Car Radio in 2018. Here we see someone leaving Dima and throwing up as many roadblocks as they can, more and more of them. Now that interview is August 2013. We're seeing this symbol, this metaphorical representation of fighting back, throwing up these roadblocks way down the line 5 years later. Now to me, that's not a really specific callback, rather it's an example of a really huge ongoing theme. Let's take a quick look at what's being said in Car Radio.
Sometimes quiet is violent. I find it hard to hide it. My pride is no longer inside. It's on my sleeve, my skin will scream, reminding me of who I killed inside my dream. I hate this car that I'm driving. There's no hiding from me. I'm forced to deal with what I feel. There is no distraction to mask what is real. I could pull the steering wheel. I have...
So Tyler's describing what's going on in his head when he has to drive without music. All these really threatening thoughts. It's uncomfortable or even painful. So what about the second half of the song?
There are things we can do, but from the things that work there are only two, and from the two that we choose to do, peace will win and fear will lose. There's faith and there's sleep. We need to pick one, please, because faith is to be awake, and to be awake is for us to think, and for us to think is to be alive. And I will try with every rhyme to come across like I am dying to let you know you need to try to think.
Tyler acknowledges this as an important, necessary thing. The lack of the distraction causes him to think, and he realizes, fuck, that's important. This format of introducing an idea and then struggling with it and maybe resolving it is part of a structure that Tyler's used a lot over the years.
I guess that there's, when I start writing a song, there's kind of a structure in mind. Like I want to introduce this idea in the first verse, wrestle with the idea in the second verse, and kind of resolve it by whether it's the third verse or the bridge or and then the chorus kind of brings you along to each part.
Proof of concept. So in addition to being the song that would sort of introduce people to this era, Fairly Local is clearly the best example of this format. Verse 1 is like, I am made of some gosh darn bad shit. And verse 2 is like, wait, no, I'm not. Just line for line. Verse 1, I'm evil to the core. Verse 2, I'm not evil to the core. Verse 1, is that who I truly am? Verse 2, I know who I truly am. Introduce an idea, wrestle with the idea. How about Heavy Dirty Soul? In verse 1, one thing he throws out is the idea that he's not rapping to prove something, he's just not trying to say nothing. And then in verse 2, he calls out the irony of saying shit like, you only live once, while living thoughtlessly, like a mindless zombie. Challenging those voices that do say nothing, those stiff upper lip gangsters. What is my point here? Well, the theme that I'm talking about is fighting back. And now that we've seen that there's a structure for it, let's test it out. For instance, what might happen if you didn't get to that second verse where the fighting back happens? Well, if you don't fight back, it'll take you out, right? So in April of 2016, they posted a video called Circle, which is a partial video of Heavy Dirty Soul, which shows the exact same thing.
Can you say my heavy dirty soul?
of these are followed up by Tyler reappearing somewhere else to start over. It's like he respawns, like in a video game. And just like a video game, this is just gonna keep happening. We're always gonna fall eventually, until the game is over. But until that time, you keep on starting over. Even in these car radio visuals, the person does get dragged back to Dima in the end. Or runs there, it's hard to tell. Now what's cool to me about this is that you can find consistency here, and it does mean something. That's 3 out of 3 times, where no verse with a challenge in it means Tyler falls, means Tyler starts again somewhere else. It's like you can come at this from either direction, either knowing that that's a structure, and then see it in the performance, or just see the performance and eventually absorb so much of it that you're like, wait a minute, I think this means something. And that's going to be the case with this next part as well, color. You can either come at it knowing that color's being used symbolically here, or you just absorb so much of the content that eventually you're like, wait a minute. Okay, so, color. Let's play this quote again.
Whether it's the content on the screens or what the lights are doing, and or all the way down to what colors represent what, and having those colors kind of battle each other, and one of them wins. And there's actually a lot of storyline inside of our production of our live show.
Now you probably know that the colors we're talking about fighting back and forth here are red and yellow. And while it's clear that Tyler is talking about the live show in this clip we just watched, Jumpsuit shows us that red and yellow has a presence in music videos as well, and that's what we're going to look at here. See how this yellow throws off red? That's what we're looking for. Okay, tear in my heart. Tyler is dressed in red and black. Sees these red eyes, is consumed by distrust of the people around him. Then Jenna, in her yellow jacket, rolls up and things change. They connect, she basically slaps the blurry face out of him. Yellow wins. So then, naturally, yellow gets the last word in the show. Stressed out. In Stressed Out, Tyler is kind of nostalgic for a time where he didn't worry about the future or think about the past. Blurryface tells him in this deep voice, wake up, you need to make money. It's kind of taken as read that we're never going to have that again. You grow up, this is how it is now. But at the same time, we see Tyler and Josh on these freaking tricycles. These tricycles with the yellow-ass seats. They're making a choice to do something that provides some of that uncomplicated happiness that seems so out of reach now. But as we know, Blurryface wins this one, as he does in the show. In fact, Stressed Out comes into this era even more red. Ride. Ride talks about how complicated it is to maintain relationships with the life that they have. The video shows us a day that's way too bright and a night that's way too scary. It's a situation out of balance. Tyler and Josh give each other shades and they get floodlights, effectively solving both those problems. They adapt to their circumstances. Now you probably remember in Nico that Tyler packs those sunglasses, a thing that he has recently used to solve a problem. You may also remember the long discussion we had about the beanie as a symbol of the Blurryface era, the experience of that. So you could say, when Tyler is packing to leave Dima again, he's bringing with him exactly what he needs, tools and experience. As for Ride in the present, we get a single flash of yellow at the end of the chorus. They have solved this problem. And as we talked about in the last video, in the live show, Ride no longer shows any red. Next, Fairly Local. In Fairly Local, we switch from this cold, bluish white light abruptly in the second verse to yellow versus red, when Tyler is saying the "hey, I'm not evil" part. That's pretty straightforward. That's about as on the nose as you can get. Notice how you only see the red eyes and hear the deep voice when he switches back to that message that Blurry repeats. And tragically, we all know how this one ends in both the video and the live show. Okay, so we're basically out of time, and there's so much more you could talk about here. Like, you could take this all the way back to Truce. Tyler did an interview last year where he mentions that the content of Neon Gravestones is one of the reasons he feels like he has to leave Trench. And here he is, in his green and yellow shirt, singing about making a choice to stay alive. And I don't know what's more rebellious than that. So, there we have it. I hope those examples were helpful. I just mean to say that there's a structure. Whether or not I've got it, there's a method to this madness. Alright, next up, the null sign.